Can I take the ghost up high?
That's another metaphysical question for you. Can I take the ghost up high?
Can my ghost descend to heaven?
Descend to heaven.
I said ascend.
You did not.
I did. I assure you. Go back and watch the video evidence.
There's a thing. Get in it. There was a plane.
Where?
Behind you. That. I'm looking at it.
That.
Oh, that's
jalopy?
a shame.
Yes.
Well, we gotta fly somehow.
I agree, and yet here it sits.
Fly.
Like
a duck on Tuesday.
What?
I don't know. Well, now that all theology has been solved,
well, that was fun.
We can all get chrismated together.
I think that we ought to actually make that chart, though.
That's so much research into. I don't know enough about. I don't even know enough about the denomination I grew up in.
I'm willing to do the research if you're willing to make the chart.
Well, then, I'm willing to do all the work as long as you put the finishing touches.
I'll do the legwork, and you can actually put all the nice little.
Well, that sounds fine to me then.
And then we'll send it to the Pope, and we'll become famous.
Send it to the Pope, and he'll say, "These guys have done it. I'm resigning."
You're the new Pope. You're in the papacy. You're in the papacy, pal.
You're in the papacy. You're in the... Well, that doesn't work.
You have to just... You're in the papacy. Oh.
Because you're a Catholic now. Whoa! You are a Catholic now. Okay,
so going back to Azusa Street and the whole. I actually didn't mention that, did I? It's a part of the holiness movement.
See, I don't know none. I know the names of these things, but I don't know anything about Protestantism.
It would be worth it to me to have you.
Be worth it to you.
That because I think it would give you remarkable.
It would be worth it to me.
A remarkable bridge for where Protestantism went wrong.
I think his name was John Calvin.
Well, okay, sure. But, no, before that. No. But I think the holiness movement brought back, it was like the Protestant Reformation was the holiness movement.
I'm not overly fond of that.
No, I'm talking like within the actual Protestant. I'm kind of hijacking that term.
Hijack a better one.
It was like the equivalent of what happened when the counter Reformation happened within the Catholic Church. It was like, okay, this is the Reformation that happened within the Protestant belief system that actually brought it closer back to the original intent, I believe, of Christendom. And what happened was there was all of this unity in spirit across denominations. Like I'm talking within the holiness movement, you had Catholics then coming back into these meetings and gatherings. You had famous, what is it called? Anglican ministers who were coming back into and being a part of these things. And so you go, all of these people kind of came back and conjoined or coincided in this movement. And then all of a sudden, people got their panties in a twist theologically about all kinds of things. And then all of a sudden it split again.
There's no... Panties and twisting has been a staple of. I mean, even the councils, there was a fair amount of that happening.
Right, but I'm talking then like permanent.
But they just had a certain amount of grit to be like, well, we'll have another council then. I mean, we're gonna answer this question. That's
obviously we're not gonna just name it the sperm.
Well, we're obviously not just gonna make another denomination. I mean, yeah, it's like there was a degree of that back in the day.
Denomination.
What?
Oh, come on!
I didn't hear it.
I just said that I was making the joke about the sperm whale thing, and then I said, obviously, we're not going to call it the sperm denomination. And then I went, a Seminole denomination.
But what's that a reference to? It's not part of that same bit.
No, it's a Seminole vintage. It's from It's from...
So you again can try to combine two completely disparate
that
quotes.
They're not disparate at all, because the fact that Seminole also can mean...
Well, that's disparate in that they come from two very different sources.
Sure,
You can't make two references in quick succession and think I'll make the leap just because of Seminole.
Well, I thought I inseminated the conversation first.
You might have done that, but you should have asked.
Before...
All right, well, I expect to see all of you at the Divine Liturgy next week. Or at Mass, I guess, if you insist. So, and then, if we're the Emperor again, let's go back to this question. If you're the Emperor of the Western world, which ones are getting the OK seal and which ones are getting persecuted?
Wow. I don't know that I would intentionally go out to... Because here's the thing. Religion thrives on...
Persecution.
It's true. That's not a joke.
I mean, Christ said almost as much.
So it's kind of like I would actually go as far as to say it's actually better. You're better off just leaving everybody.
Hey, the Orthodox have been around just fine being persecuted.
No, but exactly my point. That is precisely my point. If you persecute a particular religious sect, even if it's incorrect theologically, it's probably going to gain more than it loses.
Is that thoroughly true? Because Arianism's not a thing anymore, so I mean, it clearly works to some extent.
Well,
Manichaeism's gone. I mean,
that's only because I would argue that
Manichaeism was pretty prominent. Augustine was a Manichae originally.
Yeah, but was more of an outpouring of just time and cultural shift. I don't know that was inherent.
The church denounced it pretty strongly, so I can't imagine that didn't have an effect.
Sure, but yeah, I mean...
All right, I need a vehicle. I'm tired of hoofing it.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
So I would say the Catholics and the Orthodox...
You keep charting.
Get a free pass in my book.
Yes. I don't think they're perfect by any stretch. I think the
Orthodox are pretty darn close.
What it comes down to is Orthodox, Catholics.
Because the thing about the Orthodox is they're the Catholics without the stuff I disagree with about the Catholics.
Judaism.
Well, sure, they can stay too.
Well, no, but I'm saying all three of those are willing to get in the trenches and say, we're going to work these things out with fear and trembling.
Because we don't just split for no reason.
Exactly. Which is why I come down to the biggest problem with Protestantism is really, has always been, lack of accountability. When there's no one saying, well, we can't do that, then everything
ostensibly
goes.
The Spirit would do that, but who says they're listening?
Well, unfortunately, the people can say the Spirit tells them to go strip naked and do a river dance, but that's not the case. You're listening to the wrong spirit at that point.
A spirit told you that, certainly, but...
Hey, I found people over here, which means...
Yes, we've been here several times. The problem is dying once we get here. If we could avoid doing that, we'd be fine. Alright, so yeah, as part of my emperocy... I'm not sure that's a word, but I'm making it one. Catholicism and Orthodoxy are fine. All others...
Messianic Judaism can remain if you
must. Yeah, Messianic Judaism. No, not even if you must. That's fine by me.
And if you don't like one of those three, you can go to the showers.
Wow, you're just making a whole nasty bed for yourself.
No.
I ain't gonna lay in it with you. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but if you did, it was a bit insensitive. Go to the showers. You're in base.
What am I missing? I didn't clearly do it on purpose.
You just told all the Jews to become Christians so they can go to the showers.
That's not what I meant.
Well, it's what you said.
No, we left Messianic Judaism in
No,
there.
you said Messianic Judaism's fine, but if you don't like that, you can go to the showers. I was like, I know you were referring to more than them, but you gotta still be more cautious. I would not persecute that strongly.
That is terrible.
You said it. I was just cautioning you.
Okay, I wasn't meaning it that way.
Well, the internet doesn't know that.
That's true. Thank you for the clarification. I am not...
When I said persecute, I don't mean with lions and gladiators. I simply mean...
Not sending anybody to the showers.
I mean, no tax rebates. I'll go with the way the government's always oppressed people with taxes.
With money.
So the Orthodox Church and the Catholics, they get to keep their tax breaks. Protestantism,
no.
You'll get a proportional tax break depending on how much of the creed you've bastardized. All right, Mr. Luther, it looks like you're pretty close. We could give you 90% of the tax rebate.
Hi.
Joseph Smith, get out of here.
Hi, my name's John Calvin. I'm not talking to you.
John Calvin. Oh, then I just...
Shut up, John. Just playing.
We know what's best.
You do not know what is best.
And John Smith or Joseph Smith shows up, and I call the secret police. Well, now that we've thoroughly abused
upset everybody on the internet.
Now that we've thoroughly abused the doctrine of separation of church and state, what else? What else is on the docket? I had a fluff topic.
Good.
I went to Ace Hardware, and I've changed my mind a little bit about it not being a helpful place. Oh no, I haven't bought anything major, but we've teased Ace Hardware. We've teased Ace Hardware for not being as helpful a place as it claims. Yes. But I think I realized that there deserves to be a distinction between hardware stores and home improvement stores.
Helpful people.
No, hang on. And the home improvement store, because that's what Lowe's and Home Depot are. They call themselves home improvement stores, strictly speaking. They're not exactly hardware stores.
I know the line you're dancing and it's thin.
Well, because the thing is, when I was in the Ace Hardware, I have had negative
hardware.
Well, exactly. So it's like consumable items needed for various tools. So you can buy replacement saw blades, replacement drill bits, replacement.
You can buy bolts,
bits and stuff.
People buy there.
But the thing is, like, I've tried to go to Ace Hardware back before I really knew what made it different than the others. I basically, before I was a hobbyist, I was like, Lowe's, Home Depot, and Ace, they're the same thing, basically. They're all just hardware stores. But Lowe's and Home Depot are really home improvement stores.
Gradient.
Because they have...
And then you got...
They'll have stuff like fence posts and various lengths of wood and things that are more... That's not hardware in the strictest sense. That's a material used for a project, so it's adjacent, but it is not hardware. So I've tried to go to Ace Hardware to be like, hey, I need, I need a 2x4 for this. It's like, well, they don't have that. It's like, I was annoyed, but I think that was more my fault for not knowing what I was actually going to. Because if I needed to go to like, all right, I need to stock up on circular saw blades and scroll saw blades and actual hardware, things that fall under the hardware category that aren't just like, oh yeah, I need wood and PVC pipe. It's like, okay, those are not hardware, that's material.
Yes, there are times that Ace Hardware is actually preferable for us, like for instance at work. Did you know what else they do? Is they sell like chain in various gauges by the length. So
I'm not surprised. So when I was there, I realized I think I had I was going into it expecting one thing, which is why I was critical of it. But then I realized if you actually go to it for what it's meant for, it actually does that pretty well.
Okay, but your argument still has not been made in that they are helpful.
Well, okay, I guess that depends on what you need. What do you need from them? What help are you looking for?
I'm looking for
because I would argue
employees that actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say Home Depot's got those either.
No, that's true.
So it's like it's the King of the Hill skits. I'm looking for a 90-degree pipe. We don't have those. Of course you do. They're right behind you. Those aren't pipes. It's like, what are you?
Dad, come at Lowe's.
So it's a little bit like, do any of them have the people that know what they're talking about? O'Reilly's is the only place.
That's very
They're not a hardware store, but they're the only place that hires people who know what they're talking about.
If you shop at AutoZone, I'm sorry.
You can also go to hell. That's the other place I'm oppressing as the emperor. O'Reilly's gets the imperial stamp of approval. AutoZone is sanctioned to oblivion.
AutoZone was the moron that initially told me that
I told you to put adhesive on your brakes or something stupid.
it wasn't adhesive. It was squeak stop. And at the time, I was like, I don't even normally use this, but whatever, fine. Because I was doing it for my wife, and I was like, I don't want it to specifically... Because when you first put new brakes on, it's going to squeak slightly. That's what a lot of people don't understand, because they're new pads. Okay, whatever. But for my wife, I was like, well, I don't want it to freak her out, so sure, I'll put this stuff on. Put it on the pads, like the guy said. Didn't check the instructions. That was on me. I have to admit that and just say, okay. But...
That may blow a hole in your whole case.
Well, no. I mean,
He recommended it to me, but I didn't read the instructions.
Well, no. He recommended the product and said, put it here. Like, it was like he actually gave... It wasn't like, oh, yeah, he just recommended the product and I just improperly applied it. It was like...
That's the wrong way.
He said, this is how you should apply it. This is what you should do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And then when after it happened that I put it on there and it burst my rotors and my brake pads into flames, I brought all the stuff back to him and I was like,
hi.
The directions directly say not to do that, pal. And he just gave me new ones.
Oh, well, I'm surprised actually they had that amount of decency.
Well, yeah. I mean,
what's the other one that's all right? There's the 3... Napa. Is that one all right?
Napa's great.
But they're not everywhere.
No, Napa's not everywhere, and they are a little bit more like Ace in that they are parts that they sell are less like, oh, I need a...
And the secret is everyone knows Summit Auto is the best place.
I have actually never been.
I've never been inside of a Summit either because it almost seems like it's not for me. It's for people who have cars they care that much about.
Napa's close.
But Summit's the place where it's like you could probably buy a transmission from them off the shelf or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Napa's similar in that like you can get like it's like my water.
Here's the secret, everybody who lives in the lives in the modern age. A1 or is it 1A? I think it's 1A Auto and
I am shooting you repeatedly.
Carparts.com. Those are the two places that you need to know about forever. Because they will get you through. They'll get you high tonight. With
a little help.
With enough brake cleaner, you probably could.
Well,
I looked at an arc welder today and my eye kind of hurts.
Okay. I wasn't expecting you to dad joke, Lob.
No, that's not even a dad joke. That actually happened.
That actually happened? You're an idiot.
I didn't do it on purpose. Because here's the thing. I went...
Put a MIG welder right in my eye socket.
That wasn't that stupid. It was almost that stupid. Okay, but here's what happened. I went into the shop at work for the first time today because I hadn't had any reason to before. And I was kind of impressed because I've seen from the outside of the building, it's like, oh yeah, it's like a big, you can see the warehouse shape section on the back. It's like, oh yeah, that's pretty big. And then when I was in it, I was like, oh gosh, this place is huge. Like way bigger than I had realized. I didn't even realize our property was this big. So I was looking around for a moment, just because like I was impressed by what I was seeing. And they had an automatic plasma cutting table that was cutting out some piece of steel. And I looked at it and I was like, oh wow, that's cool. And then it occurred to me, I shouldn't be looking directly at that. And then for the rest of the day, my left eye was hurting. It was only for like a second. It's not like I can't see out of it now. But it was funny that I was like, oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. I got 5 at the sun stare.
Because it's not an immediate like, I looked at an arc welder without a glass and now I'm blind. It's more of a exposure over time thing. Although I did hear one pretty harrowing story of a guy who got a full like several seconds burst of staring at a MIG welder. And he was like, my eyes literally got sunburned. Like they turned red and I couldn't see straight for several days. So I was like, that sounds really awful. Because he literally described it as like, it felt like sunburn. Like it actually felt like the surface of my eye was crusted with burnt skin.
That's terrible.
So I was like, that sounds awful. So it wasn't that, but it was like, okay, my eye still kind of hurts from that several hours later. So don't look at plasma jets. Because I wasn't aware that plasma jets are the same as arc welders. I think I said arc welder, but technically it was a plasma cutter. But it's the same kind of electrical. You're going the wrong way again. Also, they normally have those special UV protective screens around those things. So
Yeah, that's a little odd, but it was exposed?
Yeah, it was just in the middle of the floor.
Clearly the guys just know not to look at it. But that's...
So anyways, that was completely without subtext or context or anything that would lead to it. So, sorry. I just thought I'd share.
That was the fluffy topic? Or no,
No, the fluffy topic was Ace Hardware.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, any hardware store, if you gave me enough cash, I could have a good time there. But here's my main qualm is Ace...
I don't know that I feel that strong.
Ace feels like a proper hobby store as opposed to Hobby Lobby.
That's
because the thing I hate about Hobby Lobby is it's a home decor store that also sells some crafting supplies.
And that's
and so is basically places like Joann and all those other kinds of craft stores.
But see, Joann's actually admits it. Like Joann's subtext is fabrics.
Well, yeah, but they also have. They're mostly a home decor store that also has some sewing supplies. They have more of a selection
in their fabric.
They have, they have more of a selection, but they are largely home. If you looked at pure floor space, it's like home decor is most of it. So that's what Hobby Lobby is. It's like, yes, you have crafting supplies, but mostly you're a home decor store.
See, I would say that's probably true of.
And most of the crafting supplies
Hobby
you have.
Lobby. What's the other one? But I feel like I could say, I mean, and having experience working craft stores multiple times, Joann's to me seems like about 40% generally of their store is dedicated to like fabrics.
Yeah, that's not enough to call yourself a craft store in my opinion. It has to be like 70 or more.
Sure.
You're not a hobby store if you sell mostly home stuff. Literally, the center of every Hobby Lobby is home decor, and then the outside aisles have crafting supplies.
I'm not arguing. I'm saying.
Well, I haven't been in a Joann's in enough Joann's.
But it's sewing only almost.
Sure, but I also noticed there's a lot of fake plants and home decor things in the center aisles.
Well, sure.
All I'm saying is, I appreciate that Ace doesn't fill itself with needless appliances I don't need. It's like, yes, I'm here for tools. I'm not here to redecorate my kitchen. So I can appreciate cutting out the chaff and saying, no, if I need chisels or saws or replacement parts for various things.
Am I going the wrong way again?
Doesn't appear so. So anyways, I don't know that we'll milk too much out of that, but I just wanted to say it because we've said it. I've criticized them, and I feel I ought to apologize.
Give them the credit that they deserve, yeah. Well, I mean, that just goes to show you that anything that is not being used for what it was designed to be used for is
it's as much your fault as anyone else's. Did I have any other topics saved? I felt like I might have.
Maybe so. I don't know.
Did you? Did we talk about the two that were yours?
I mean, the ones that I primarily wanted to open today. I'm still working on some other ones that I'm mulling myself before I... Oh, you would get shot in the face if I shot you, which I did. Are you kidding me?
What kind of a... That's a strange logical supposition there.
It! In the face.
If and only if I shoot you in the face, you will die.
In the face.
Only the face will die.
Only your face will die.
The trouble is, once the face dies, everything else does too.
Sad for you, buddy.
Alrighty, well. What else can we get worked up about? Scrubs. You're saying you don't agree?
That's not getting worked up, that's just getting up.
Well, I mean, you could... Worked up can have many meanings.
Okay, you're a weird little alien creep, aren't you?
Isn't everything in this game?
Yeah, but he had some disease.
So you really don't.
But it's a disease.
You really don't agree with the scrubs thing? You've never seen someone wearing scrubs and been like, "That looks good on you."
No.
Okay, I'm alone in this. Apparently.
Okay, all right. You look different.
The thing I have to wonder is it... Because it's obvious...
based on childhood trauma?
Good grief.
I'm teasing you.
Because the only thing I could guess is is it adjacent maybe to the whole thing about there's a subtype of, I don't know, it's probably too generous to call it a subtype. There is the trend of like the girls in sweatpants thing where it's more of a cutesy thing than it is like an attractiveness. It's almost more.
But that's what I'm getting at. It's the whole dress down thing because
is it a casual element?
It
is. It's not
I,
casual because they're work clothes.
Yeah, but my point is, what it does is it strips away all extra effort in order to feign beauty.
Yeah, but that then implies that every nurse I've ever seen is attractive, which I still can't quite.
Maybe you just
grasp.
gotta no.
I don't think that's statistically
I'm gonna go
possible.
further. It's not. I'm gonna go further than that. I'm gonna say you appreciate more than just on physical appearance. It's attractive to you to have people that are not intending to put on air.
But see, you're psychologizing it too much when in the reality you're making
Really,
it.
I just get up to nurses. That's what I'm saying.
I wasn't gonna say that.
Well,
I'm just saying I find it
for the brass tacks.
it isn't as noble as I appreciate you being utilitarian. It's like, no, you genuinely
I
look good in that.
appreciate you, if you know what I mean.
So
Love to appreciate you over there.
The only other thing I can guess is they're not like tight. It's not like yoga pants.
No, not at all.
But they're not
Scrubs are,
baggy either. Okay. So I guess is it just that it's a sort of form-fitting thing?
is it form-fitting?
Not
maybe
tightly, but enough that it's.
You go to a different hospital than me.
Because we frequent hospitals.
Let's switch. I should exchange numbers. I need to change my primary.
I don't even have a primary.
I'm joking.
I'm too much of a Zoomer to have a primary doctor.
Nobody has a primary anymore. That's not a Zoomer thing. That's just a thing now. Because of...
We're all dying young, didn't you hear?
Do you have a primary? Who goes to doctors anymore?
Get the memo. We're all dying at 30.
Shut up, nurse. That's really why you're attracted to nurses. Is just because you want to have one in your corner all the time.
No, I
Who
don't
needs
think
a
that's
doctor?
the case.
Who needs a doctor? You just come home. Is my mole looking weird?
Okay, what?
It's the joke based on the whole. Your doctor's always analyzing your various.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're implying that I've never explicitly stated that I was interested only in nurses. I was simply referring. I imagine even if someone wasn't a nurse and they'd wearing scrubs, I would think the same thing. Because I can't prove that every person I've ever seen wearing scrubs was a nurse.
Well, what else would they be?
I don't know, but it's
Unless
not.
you're looking at the doctors.
It's not exclusive. But it's not exclusive. It's not like scrubs can't be worn by anyone other than nurses. It's just that's what they're typically worn by.
I suppose I'm gender typecasting a little bit because doctors can also be women and men can also be nurses.
Yes, I've looked at a bunch of male nurses and went, "Those scrubs are really doing you a favor, son. You look good, nurse. Smack."
With you and your taut chest.
You're going the wrong way again.
Lovely butt.
Well,
there's just something about these that I like.
Now that I've dug an even deeper hole for myself, trying to salvage this topic.
I don't know that there was any salvaging happening. I think we were just continuing to ride that horse until it dies.
Well, it's dead.
Well, it's dead. Well, there you go. Doctors and...
We got like half an hour. We can't be done now.
Why do we... What?
We got... Well, I mean, unless we just call this a... Either we have a bunch of really long episodes or a short one. Well, we're also not to the end of this level, and I'm not doing it again.
Well, that's certainly...
We got to at least get to the end.
Well...
Yeah, what was odd about your week?
Oh! You know what? I watched a different movie.
Whoa! I imagine in your head the monkey face girl from House when you did that. Whoa!
Wow. Yeah, okay.
No one's going to get that reference.
And if they do, they're going to assume you're racist because of that comment.
There are no... No, actually, I'm not even going to make the leap. Because I am not a racist. If you made that leap, it was on you. I won't give you any credence by also making it. What were you going to say, though? Or are we just going to... Am I just getting hung out further to dry?
Another film that actually you may appreciate. Because it was... I watched it because it was something that came up on my feed. That there was a scene from the movie. And I was like, this is Tobey Maguire. And normally I don't always like his stuff. But this seems like a particularly compelling scene. I'm going to look up the movie. It was called Pawn Sacrifice.
Pawn?
Pawn.
Oh.
Pawn Sacrifice. And it was apparently about a... It's a chess movie. But it was actually really fascinating.
Can't imagine Tobey Maguire.
He went crazy and essentially had this, like, he was a world champion chess player that ended up being like he ended up going all the way and winning everything against the Russians, I guess, at a time that was pretty critical. But
what?
Yeah, but
he beat some Russians at chess when that mattered.
He beat some Russians at chess. And it was like global news, and then he kind of went crazy. But
is this based on any kind of true story?
No, yeah. Like,
who was he playing?
He was I can't remember the Russian guy he was playing. His name was, but his
famous
name,
Russian chess player. I should know the name. I've actually studied a little bit of chess.
His name was James.
That's not a Russian name.
No, I'm saying the guy that played against the Russians. His name was Jimmy. It's the last
come
name's
on! I
not
have
gonna
his
come to
name.
me.
Hang on.
That's really gonna bother me. The last name's not gonna come to me. Oh, I remember the Russian's name though. It was
There's a famous Russian chess player whose name I know. Jimmy. I didn't know if that was the American name. Hang on.
SPA, and I want to say it's.
You're not talking about Bobby Fischer, are you? You said Jimmy.
I thought it was Jimmy Fisher, but yes, it was Fisher.
Okay, Bobby Fischer is
Bobby,
a famous American chess player.
Yes. So Bobby Fisher's the
I
one
can't
who
remember
played
the name of the
against
famous. I have
Russian
a book.
guy.
I have his book about chess. I have not actually properly studied it yet.
Bobby Fischer.
Yeah.
So
wrote a
he
book
went
about playing
completely
chess.
bat skates crazy though.
No, he didn't.
He
Though
did.
he
did.
didn't. Bobby
He
Fischer.
100%.
I think he might even still be alive.
He lives in Iceland. He's maybe still alive, but he is bat skates.
I have not heard.
He was convinced that there was a government conspiracy theory, and is.
Well, I mean, how
it's-
wrong could that be these
Well,
days?
yeah. Nowadays it's.
If
maybe
anything,
worse.
he might be proven correct soon.
He actually moved to Iceland though because he was tired of being an American.
Well, that feels defeatist, but I understand it. The problem is there's nowhere you could move that would capture the same thing. I'd honestly just be like, let's just have a second revolution at this point.
Well, that I
don't want to just because there's nowhere else you could go to get that. It's not like, oh yeah, I'll go to Switzerland because it's equally as libertarian. It's like, well, no, they're pretty close, but it isn't the same, and I'd rather just have what we had.
So anyway, it was actually a really good movie. I think, especially if you actually have studied any sort of chess and
I have not
Bobby
studied
Fischer.
any chess tactics because it's quite a heavy thing. I know who Bobby Fischer was. There's the Russian guy's name I would know.
It's SP.
If I heard it, I would know. I know I would remember it.
Stasi or
because I studied essentially back when I was very interested in learning how to play chess properly. It was like Bobby Fischer, and there was also a Russian guy who have both written books about playing chess and the various tactics involved.
The guy that played against him. It was the one time in world chess history that that Russian guy actually stood up and applauded.
I might as well
Fischer
look it up
because of the fact that he was so impressed with his game. It was game 6, I think, of the 15 that they played. And he literally was so flabbergasted by the move that he was just like, wow.
Gary Kasparov, was that it?
Nope. Wasn't Kasparov.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Look up who Bobby Fischer played in the World Chess Championship.
Well, I'm sure he probably played several.
No, but it was number one. It was like the guy that was number one.
Magnus Carlsen.
No.
Irving Chernev. That's
Nope.
another famous one.
Not,
Vladimir Kramnik.
Nope. Not Kramnik either.
Well, okay, you're not helping me out here because that's all the ones I can even remember ever
Well,
hearing.
I'm saying look up. It should be if you just look up Fischer. It should,
Vasily Smyslov.
no, it wasn't. That doesn't. That's closer, but it's not. I don't think it is.
Elo's list did not include 5-year averages for later players Bobby Fischer and Anatoly Karpov. Anatoly Karpov, because apparently they're.
No, look up who it actually is in the movie. Maybe they used a different name.
Oh, here you go. Top 20 players rated of all time. Magnus Carlsen is the number one. He's the current reigning. Garry Kasparov. Whoa. Shahryar Mamedyarov. That's quite a name. Vladimir Kramnik. Vasilin Topalov. Alexander Grishuk.
Spetsky?
Anish Giri. It's interesting how many famous chess players were Russian.
Well, Fischer, though, talks about that in the movie because they stacked the deck a lot. They played, essentially what they did is they played the statistics game and played a team game, essentially, where they would have certain people throw games and other people win because they wanted to make it more like dominant on a Russian team level. It was a weird, like, that's why I'm saying you should watch the movie. It's really good, actually. I appreciated what it was. It was a bit, I wouldn't say it was difficult to follow. It was a bit different than I expected, maybe, is a good way of putting it. Am I out of ammo on this? No, I'm not, and I just made a crack shot.
Boris Spassky?
Yes, Spassky. That's what it was.
He didn't come up on any of the other lists. I have not heard of Bobby Fischer going mad. I knew that he was a bit of an eccentric character, but that's not the same thing as being nuts.
At least that's what the movie said. I'm not. But he
Maybe
is
he
still
was
alive. And
Russian
well,
propaganda.
they showed him at the end of the movie, and he is like ranting about how he's like. At one point, that he said, "Well, I'm a chess player, and basically, chess is about searching for truth, and that's what I'm going to do based on."
Oh, fair enough.
It was, but it was. All I'm saying is his at least social aptitude continued to digress. At the very least,
but again, he's always been a odd sort of eccentric character.
Sure, but I'm saying.
But I mean, he was also a sort of child prodigy. That tends to happen.
From eccentricity to like isolated, like you're not mentally well. Not specifically like psychosis.
Would you say Alex Jones is not mentally well?
Alex Jones. Well, why am I not knowing who that is?
Well, I don't know.
Should I?
I would have thought you would.
I'm not. It's not.
He's a famous conspiracy theorist who's been proven right about a lot of things. Actually, I don't know what to call him exactly. He's a political commentator who's 10 years ago was ridiculed for being an idiot and thinking all sorts of stupid things, and has sadly been proven right about a lot of things. So I don't know. I'd be curious. I would like to be better at chess because chess is a fascinating game, but the main issue I have is the more I look into it, the more you realize that chess is probably basically done. Like, chess has nowhere more to go because...
What capacity?
Well, because essentially all of chess literature that like talks about learning how to play chess is basically just based on previous games.
Well, yeah, but
so the fact of the matter is
infinite possibilities once you make the first 4 moves. I think it is.
It's not. It's
not infinite, but I mean it's
practically
absurd.
infinite. But the problem is, I was once. The one guy typified. It's like, here's what's wrong with chess: is I was watching a tournament, and these two players literally made it was move like 26. Which is, so it's like, think about how many possible by move 26, how many possible configurations could there be of a chessboard? Is going by. It took until move 26 before this game was completely distinct from any other previous game. Because up until then, you could have basically plotted, okay, this guy does this, that guy does that, that matches this previous game that's already happened. He responds with this, well, that's this other game. He responds with that. It took 26 moves for the game to become truly unique in that it was a game that had not previously been played. That's more of the issue I have with it, where it seems like the tactics have kind of gotten lost in just, here's what's been done before.
I don't feel like that's a loss of tactics as much as it is like a tactic.
Well, because what it essentially means is that we think of, oh, chess players are these, super logically, they're genius level intellects, and they think in, incredibly.
It's a psychological game half the time too.
Not even that. It's literally just how many moves can you remember? How many games can you remember? It's like, okay, if you can remember every chess game that's ever been played, then you'll know the right move for the right counter for any move.
Well, that's an argument, sure.
And it's like, that starts to feel less like a tactical cleverness game and more of a just, if you can remember a lot of stuff, then you'll be fine. And
liquid memory is still...
That's not to say that that's not related to intelligence, but it's like, I actually...
Fluid, that's what fluid memory.
To pivot to a slightly different topic. It was me again. It's been a long time since we've had that. The film, I watched a film recently on my dad's recommendation called The 12 Mighty Orphans, which is about...
Yeah, football.
Yeah, but it's about...
Rugby or football?
No, it's football. In some ways, it was sort of almost... It was almost about how American football differentiated itself from rugby, in that the way the game was played in the early 1900s was pretty similar to rugby. It was mostly a handoff game, and technically speaking, football does still have the rules of rugby in that you can pass backwards at any point, but not forwards, except if you're the cornerback at the beginning of the play.
Yeah.
So most of the time, any passing was that kind of rugby passing where you had to pass behind you to someone else. But passing forwards at the beginning of a play was very uncommon. And so it describes how this coach at this particular school started experimenting with, like, we're going to try different levels of different formulations of offense and defense, and going to try different kind of plays that had never been seen before. And that's fascinating to me, is to see
strategists
innovation, like true innovation. Because the only new play that I have ever seen that has come about in my lifetime is, they're crediting Kansas City with it. I'm not sure how true that actually is. But it's essentially they call it well, I'm annoyed because the two terms I've heard for it, there's one they call the tush push, which I think is kind of stupid. The other one, which I think is at least slightly more clever, is called the brotherly shove, where it's essentially the hiker takes the ball and the entire line basically gets behind him and tries to push him as far forward as they can before the other team stops them. And they use it explicitly for close to the, like, if you're on fourth and, like, a yard or two,
right.
They try to do it because they've basically found a way that they can almost always get it across the line in that scenario. That's about the only new play that's ever been invented in my lifetime with football. So it's interesting to me to see actual new tactics involved, not just, I remember all of these various plays of chess and I can use them when I need to. Because there's very rarely new strategy involved in chess these days. Partially because it's so well documented a game that it's almost impossible to come up with something new. Because chances are, even if it's new to you, somebody else has already done it. Football's in the same way. I mean, most sports are in that capacity now, where the rules haven't changed, and you practice one sport long enough with the rules staying the same that you'll find just about every variation you can manage.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried a while back to make football more interesting by pushing the goalposts, or like the field goal distance back. But the problem is everyone's gotten adjusted to that.
Yeah.
Because, like, for the first few seasons after they made that change, you saw more missed field goals, and now it's basically back to the point after is almost a guarantee. I should say point after, not field goal. That's a different thing. So it's like...
You're talking about 2-point conversion stuff. Yeah.
No, just the point after a touchdown. Like the...
Yeah.
Yeah. That used to be a guarantee. Like you almost never missed the point after. And then they moved the distance back. And then you started seeing people miss it. But then they just... Eventually they've got it... They've practiced it enough that now they're back to almost never missing point afters.
Just gonna run and
well, stay alive or the tank took me out.
I'm getting up because there's a nurse near.
I'm going home.
I'm going to the doctor. To the place where scrubs belong.
I don't know that it's... Is it as strange a thing as you're making it out to be? Am I alone in this?
I'm, of course, just railing on it because I can.
Am I alone in my fascination with the scrubs?
Where is this? Because I'm not out.
Oh, well, yes, it would be that.
Oh.
You got to get on it.
I've got to get on it! Are you kidding me? I almost dropped
You also have to survive!
No!
Survive!
I'm going inside.
Well, that's not probably the way to do it.
Yes, it is.
No, because if you die, you'll still start outside again. You have to kill the enemy so I can respawn.
No, I was trying to get in here so you could respawn.
Yay.
There you go. I knew that was going to be the case. Now I can go out and deal with all the nonsense.
Loading done. Good.
Okay, well, whatever.
Oh boy, another one of these.
How much of these guys are we going to have? Okay. I just dropped dead from the sheer exhaustion of dealing with them.
Here's a totally, since we're talking about Russians, let's court more controversy. Why is it still the 1980s in this country?
Oh, and isn't that everybody has a problem with Russia?
I mean, I understand it in recent years due to geopolitics. But up until that, there was literally no... Like, it's almost as though everyone's going, yep, Russia's at it again. Or I'm like, okay, but why are we acting
They may
like...
be at it again because y'all kept telling them like tools that they were still at it again.
I mean, I'm a little... I'm sure some people will be like, you're just buying into Putin. Did you see Putin, Tucker's interview with Putin?
No.
Oh, you should have. It was rather fascinating. The problem is he didn't lie as much as he could have.
Who, Putin? Or?
Yeah, where it's like, okay, the fact of the matter is he's making a lot of sense. I'm not a Putin apologist, certainly. But
well, neither was Trump, but he was fairly like, yeah, he's fine.
I mean, the fact of the matter is he's sure a corrupt politician. I could maybe believe that we didn't have those in this country. I don't believe it now. So the idea that he's somehow significantly worse, I'm like, no, he's just the same as what we have over here. At least, but the Russians know it at least. They're all like, yeah, we know it's a corrupt system, but we also kind of don't care considering that life's mostly okay for us. And that's not what I wish the country would be. I'd like decent politicians. But barring that, I'd like corrupt politicians that are corrupt in my interest, not the interest of other countries. So, well, the main issue I have is he's not wrong when he's saying basically, after the Soviet Union fell, we tried to rejoin the rest of the world, and the rest of the world didn't want us. So we kind of had to make our own thing, and so that's kind of why Russia's bitter. And I'm like, to be perfectly honest, fair enough. Like, for my entire life, we have not been at war with Russia, and yet Russia was the default enemy.
Scapegoat, yeah.
It's like, it's always Russia. I mean, recently, we had a brief dalliance in the Middle East. It's like, actually, it's Iran that's the problem. It's like, okay, well, that didn't last. We went back to Russia then. So it's like, and now it's Russia again. And it's like, okay, maybe if we just didn't act as though Russia was always the bad guy.
Oh, that's why they're not dying, is because they've got weird energy shields.
Well, yeah, but...
That apparently this little pea shooter that you hate goes right through.
Well, then they should have made it more fun to shoot.
A sturdy material and it tears right through it.
If it's going to be a gun that actually does work, they should make it more fun to shoot.
Shooting your pea shooter? There's...
All right, rumble time. Give me the rumbles.
Final target neutralized. Let's get out of here.
All right, final target neutralized. Oh, and we didn't even...
Cutscenes. That means we don't have to even do anything.
Cool.
No, that'll take too long. rotation grid that runs throughout Halo. That's how the monitor moves about so quickly. I learned how to tap into the grid when I was in the control center. Unfortunately, each jump requires a rather consequential expenditure of
Well, there you go.
Something
Plot.
tells me I'm not gonna like this.
But I'm pretty sure I can pull it from your suit without permanently damaging your shields. Needless to say, I think we should only try this once.
Do it.
Well, so I don't know. I don't get why. Because I understand, because I've talked to my parents about this. It's like, no, they grew up when Russia was an actual threat.
Yeah.
So I can understand how it became a kind of culturally ingrained instinct that was hard to kill.
Yeah, but see,
there wasn't
I grew
enough
up,
effort into
I'm
pushing
sorry,
it.
but I grew up with 9/11, and I'm not one of those people that goes, "Oh, these dang Arabs over here, they're." I'm like, I don't feel that way. If they are here, but they're Americans, I don't care.
Sure, but I think that's slightly different in that it wasn't as long a period that we had conflict with them.
Maybe.
Whereas you're going, okay, literally from the 40s until the 90s. That's 50 years. That's someone's entire upbringing.
Generation, yeah, I suppose.
Like, not even just until they're an adult, but until they're middle-aged. So it's like, I can understand if you were born in the 50s and your entire life Russia was a boogeyman. I can understand that being hard to get over. But, like, I was born years after Russia stopped being a threat,
I'll bring us in as close as I can.
and yet they were always still the quintessential enemy. And I just don't grasp that. And it seems like, okay, we seem to have made our own bed with this issue. It's like, now they don't like us. And I can't see a reason we gave them for not liking us. Or rather, I suppose I should say, I can't imagine any reason we gave them for liking us. Because we kind of did treat them basically like they were always the bad guys. So, you know, it's a shame that they started acting like bad guys. Now that we've alienated everybody.
We're going to sign off. We've done our damage on the internet. Now,
I don't know.
say
Well, we have
farewell.
started a new mission, so basically we could just sit in one spot and blow raspberries for all we care. I don't know.
that was my start. I just did that.
It's
randomly.
just... I'm just saying, I don't see why... We could have made geopolitics a much safer place if we had not done what we did.
Well, that's the case
Because
for pretty much.
think about it. Okay, we were enemies with Russia, but we also used to be enemies with Japan. And we are not anymore. In fact, we have a very fruitful relationship with Japan. Which, I mean, given that we nuked them twice, that's showing a great deal more. There has been more gotten over between us and Japan.
Well, but let's be fair. That was the lion's share of that relationship getting over was more Japan than it was.
Well, yeah, credit to the Japanese then.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I mean, Russia didn't nuke us twice, so we should have gotten over our issues
that's
with them
true,
by now.
I suppose.
So it's just, that's my point, is it seems like we could have gotten over our issues with Russia by now and could have been dual superpowers rather than...
Oh,
I don't know what you thought was going to happen there. What?
oh,
You've cracked... Oh, you did the right thing, apparently. We were supposed to jump into the snot pit. How could I have not predicted that?
I thought I could jump over it, and the game said, "Nay, I'm drowning."
Drowning in human snot.
And find another way back aboard the ship.
I mean, this ain't liquid. That's snot. Ain't no liquid flows like that. Well, we've touched on Christianity's denominations and everything else. Let's touch on Russia and Ukraine, since that's
gonna
about the
touch-
only other thing we could
We're gonna
use
touch
to
on
alienate
more
people.
things, or are we gonna?
Well, we got a few minutes to wrap up. We've solved all of Christendom. Can't we solve Russia, Ukraine in 5 minutes?
Russia, Ukraine, or do you want to open up Palestine?
I don't want to ever deal with that ever.
All these idiots out here talking about free Palestine, man. It just
Well,
drives
now you're opening it up. I am of the opinion that Israel is an independent country, and I don't quite grasp what college students think we can do about it. It's like, okay, great. What about, China's oppression of their people? We're going to talk about that? No? Oh, okay. So why? Why is it that we feel that we have to have some input into this?
or why we feel like we're informed better than the actual people themselves.
Well, I mean, the argument could be that the CIA knows a great deal, probably more about that, given that we have been allies with Israel for longer. So we probably have intelligence more on them than we do on other conflicts. But still, it's like they are an independent country who we can't control. So what exactly do you expect we should do about it?
Well, and I'm sorry, all these people that are talking out their rear ends are certainly not using any sort of statistics or information from the CIA. I promise you that.
I don't know. Honestly, the Ukraine thing, I think, is a little bit more...
What was Putin's actual justification for that whole nonsense?
His argument was basically the coup that was, and it was genuinely, there was a revolution in the Donbass region in 2014, I think, where basically people in that area started rebelling against the Ukrainian government. The Ukrainian government responded pretty heavy-handedly. And so Russia was basically saying, the war started then, and we're only intervening now. And I don't buy that fully, because even Tucker in the interview was like, okay, but you did wait, 8 years, so why? It's not like you can say, yeah, the war started 8 years ago and we're just now getting involved. It's like, that's flimsy at best. But here's the awkward truth about the whole situation, in my opinion, is it's not a far cry from how Texas became a state.
Well, yeah.
It's like, okay, even let's say that you're a super anti-Russian and you're going to say that it was all
super anti-Russian.
Let's say that you distrust everything Russia says about it and you're thinking it was a conspiracy the whole time. Well, there's people who said that about Texas.
Yeah.
There's people who said, yeah, the American government sent settlers into Texas knowing it would annoy the Mexican government. When the Mexican government responded, U.S. basically went, well, we've got people in Texas and the Mexican government's attacking them, therefore we're going to attack them back, and that's how Texas became a state. Now, it's not proven in either case that the U.S. government was officially involved in Texas becoming a state and whether or not it was a conspiracy. But there's also no official argument that the Russians began the protests in 2014. So all I'm saying is, it's as gray an issue as Texas is. So unless you're going to start saying we should go give Texas back to the Mexicans, which I guess some people might argue, but fat chance of that happening now. Not while I live here, at least. But
I have to live here.
Well, I'm just saying, and I don't just mean that as me. I mean, I'm pretty sure most Texans would take umbrage with that suggestion. So the argument isn't really, is it right or wrong, but really, is it our problem? It's like, if you're as cynical as to say the Russians instigated everything, and you're probably then also cynical enough to suggest that the U.S. annexation of Texas was also an orchestrated ploy. Okay, are you going to undo that now? If you're not, then shut up about Russia, because unless you're willing to, go the distance, I say we just let other countries be other countries. And that's also, again, that's, I think, the least charitable interpretation, because I think you could also say, in both cases with Texas and whatever's going on in the Donbass region, it's like, okay, maybe that was genuinely people who said, hey, we'd rather not be governed by these people, we'd rather be governed by others.
Well,
is that not for them to decide?
Well, yeah, that's my biggest rub, is it's like,
here's again,
it's a bit arrogant for Americans to ever stick their nose in something that we don't have full information about.
See, we used to know this as a country. We used to stick our nose out of things. Deliberately.
Well, either that, or when we stuck our nose in it, was like, we better have all the facts.
Yeah. So I don't...
Now it is very
it's
much
a useful
a political ally
Here's
issue.
here's the political... I've redounded to it several times, but I think it's a useful sort of question when it comes to politics, because it ultimately is it's a logical conclusion to basically any political opinion is, okay, let's say you're the emperor. What would you do to solve this problem? Because essentially, that's... Because the issue is most people talk without having any actual idea of what would fix it. So it's like, okay, let's say the fixing of it was your responsibility, and you didn't just have to say something and have somebody else fix it. how would you actually go about it? Because I think that tells you a whole lot more about political ideology than anything else. And basically, I would say the best thing you could hope for is you'd have to organize some kind of a temporary ceasefire and then host an election. And you'd probably have to involve some country who could be trusted on the matter. Because the Russians obviously aren't going to trust us. And the Ukrainians aren't going to trust the Russians or anyone else. So it's like, okay, let's get Switzerland in or something to orchestrate, to oversee an election in this region as to who these people want to be governed by. That would be my solution, is basically enforce a ceasefire. And I suppose this still involves getting, American military involvement, which I'm opposed to. I mean, I'm opposed to monetary involvement, to be perfectly honest, but you'd essentially have to just say, okay, we're going to enforce a ceasefire for this period of time until an election is held, at which point both sides have to swear that they will accept the results. And you'd have to involve some country who's got a decent amount of credibility on that, because Lord knows we don't anymore.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's how I would solve it in the broadest of broad views. Not that that's worth anything, like I said.
We're gonna end with
when it comes to Russia or Christianity, we are only two weirdos on the internet.